Sorry about that. I mean, continuing on. The bottom of page 12 up to, we're going to start on 13. So the last sentence was, let's go back to the last paragraph at the bottom of 12. The real significance of my experience in the cathedral burst upon me. For a brief moment, I had needed and wanted God. There had been a humble willingness to have him with me. For a brief moment, there had been humble, and he came, but soon the sense of his presence had been blotted out by worldly clamors, mostly those within myself. Noise and busyness, worry and fret, and noise and busyness. Clamors, loud noises. And so it had been ever since, how blind I had been. So he got distracted from God. Ain't that the story? Woo! At the hospital, I was separated from alcohol for the last time. Treatment seemed wise, for I showed signs of delirium tremens, which is hallucinations and shaking. Good pride versus bad pride. Bad pride is arrogant, selfish superiority. Good pride is self-esteem, value, and worth. Bad pride lacks humility, but good pride includes it. Okay, at treatment, He's at treatment now. There I humbly offered myself to God as I then understood him to do with me as he would. I placed myself unreservedly under his care and direction. Placed myself completely under his protection and control. Step 3. I admitted for the first time that of myself I was nothing, that without him I was lost. I ruthlessly faced my sins and became willing to have my newfound friend take them away, root and branch. So without pity, without feeling sorry for ourselves, we need to look at where we've been wrong. His newfound friend is, to him, it was Jesus, because that's who his God was. But friend is capitalized because that is the word for God in his writing of his story. Had my newfound friend take them away, root and branch. The root and the branch is the root of the sins are the root causes of it, down, way down deep underneath why you did it. Sometimes you'll be able to see that yourself, and sometimes you'll need someone else to help you see that. And the branch are the different paths. I have not had a drink since. I don't know why I have John 15. Okay, my schoolmate visited me and I fully acquainted him with my problems and deficiencies. I made known to him my dysfunctional behavior patterns and toxic thinking and toxic ways, okay? All his shortcomings. We made a list of people I had hurt or toward whom I felt resentment. Wow. Okay, so the previous paragraph was steps 3, 4, 5, and 6. This paragraph is this paragraph is, I don't know. And then this paragraph is his step 4 and step 5. It's kind of out of order, isn't it? Okay. And then he made the list of people who he hurt and who he felt resentful towards. A lot of times we're hurting people by our resentments. I expressed my entire willingness to approach these individuals, admitting my wrong. I expressed my entire willingness in my words and my actions. Not just like, yeah, I'm going to do it someday, but the follow through was there. Never was I to be critical of them. We're not judging them. I was to write all such matters to the utmost of my ability, the best of my ability, the best quality that I can get. I was to test my thinking by the new God consciousness, which is our awakening awareness of God's presence. Common sense would thus become uncommon sense. Common sense, basic knowledge of basic facts would thus become uncommon sense. And what I have there is uncommon sense is challenge and question everything. Sometimes the thing that is the wrong thing ends up being the right thing, and the thing that you think is the right thing ends up being the wrong thing. And when I came into AA the first time, I was 30 years old, and I didn't know what to do. And I would go to those meetings and ask them, the old timers, what do I do? And someone said, just do everything the opposite the way you've been doing it, because the way you've been doing it doesn't work. And I said, what do you mean? And they said, when you get up in the morning, if you normally put the shoe on your right foot first, put it on your left foot first. Do everything opposite of the way you've been doing it. And it worked for a while. But I didn't have the follow through. I was to sit quietly when in doubt, asking only for direction and strength to meet my problems as He would have me. I'm asking for the guidance and the power. Step 11. How hard it is to sit and be still and just be is like the hardest thing for me. And it's a practice. Never was I to pray for myself except as my request bore on my usefulness to others. Then only might I expect to receive, but that would be in great measure. I used to think that then only might I receive if I was only praying for myself and not praying for myself anymore, but that's not what that actually is saying. This paragraph is backing up the two previous paragraphs as saying, after you humbly offer myself to God, place myself under His care and protection, become willing to have Him remove all of my dysfunctional behavior patterns and sick thinking, okay? And when I sit down with someone and I go over this stuff and I'm willing to actually make the approach to someone and make the amends, when I go through all that, then I test my thinking by checking with my higher power. And if I don't know, I don't try to figure it out right away. Just stop for a minute and pause. then after all that, might I expect to receive. It's not saying never pray for yourself, never think about yourself, never care about yourself. That's not what that's saying. You know, you can't pour from an empty cup, and you can't give what you don't have, so you have to take care of yourself. My friend promised when these things were done, I would enter upon a new relationship with my creator, that I would have the basic elements of a way of living which answered all my problems. Belief in the power of God, plus enough willingness, honesty, and humility to establish and maintain the new order of things were the essential requirements. There's a promise here. When we do those things, that we get a new connection with the source of all power, which is the Creator God, and that also another promise. You'd have all the basic parts of a way of living that answered all of my problems, not just some of them. We're not just talking about stopping drinking. The reason for me not drinking is so that I can be a more effective human being, so I can fulfill my purpose. Okay? If we're just stopping drinking for money, to be rich, or if we stop drinking to be loved by or accepted by a family, or if we stop drinking to, those are not proper. I don't think that's going to last. There has to be something more stable under there. Has to be something better than that. Okay. It's going to answer all my problems. So, my mental, emotional problems, financial, spiritual, relationship problems, my personality problems. Belief in the power of God plus. So, that's faith, willingness, honesty, humility are the essential requirements to set up and continue the new way of life, are absolutely necessary. Simple but not easy. A price had to be paid. It meant that the destruction of self-centeredness. I must turn in all things to the Father of light, who presides over us all. Simple is easy to understand, but not easy to do. So remembering, first of all, to stop and ask God is just hard. And then surrender my will to whatever is a whole nother deal. To the Father of light, God, who watches over us all. Pride can manifest as self-centeredness, but self-centeredness isn't always pride. These were revolutionary. Oh, that is step 10. That was step 10. To maintain the new order of things. These were revolutionary and drastic proposals, but the moment I fully accepted them, the effect was electric. There was a sense of victory, followed by such a peace and serenity as I had never known. There was utter confidence. I felt lifted up as though the great clean wind of a mountaintop blew through and through. God comes to most men gradually, but his impact on me was sudden and profound. These were dramatic changes. They were, what is that? Drastic means strong, far-reaching effects. The effect was electric, thrilling, and sudden. There was a sense of success, victory followed by calm and untroubled waters. There was utter confidence, complete faith. His impact on me was sudden and intense. For a moment I was alarmed. I was scared and called my friend the doctor and asked if I were still sane. He listened in wonder as I talked. So we had a sudden psychic change or spiritual experience. Yeah. Finally, he shook his head, saying, "Something has happened to you. I don't understand, but you had better hang on to it. Anything is better than the way you were, and that's no lie." Saying anything is better than the way I was living. Anything, anything, anything. And I was willing to do anything, anything, anything. Because I just do not, I can't live that way. Like I was so close to death. The good doctor now sees many men who have such experiences. He knows that they are real. This is the Dr. Carl Jung. I think it's Carl. Is it Carl Jung? Yeah, he's pretty famous. Uh, While I lay in the hospital, the thought came that there were thousands of hopeless alcoholics who might be glad to have what had been so freely given me. Perhaps I could help some of them. They in turn might work with others. That's step 12. So freely you have received, freely give. That means the gift of sobriety isn't something that can be bought because you can't buy it. You just can't buy it. And someone who's trying to sell it is not really working a proper step 12. I said what I said and I meant it. No one charged you for years to get you sober. You shouldn't be charging other people to save their life. That's just my opinion. My friend had emphasized the absolute necessity of demonstrating these principles in all my affairs. Particularly was it imperative to work with others as he had worked with me. Faith without works was dead, he said, and how appallingly true for the alcoholic. For if an alcoholic failed to perfect and enlarge his spiritual life through work and self sacrifice for others, he could not survive the certain trials and low spots ahead. If he did not work, he would surely drink again, and if he drank again, he would surely die. Then faith would be dead indeed, and with us it is just like that. It's following up what he already said before. This is step 12. My friend had emphasized the absolute necessity as part of his recovery of showing and demonstrating in his daily life the principles of the 12 steps in all the events every day. So, in particularly, it was very crucial, life and death crucial, to work with others as he had worked with me. Okay? Faith without works is dead. Works without faith is dead. So, how appallingly true. Okay, so if an alcoholic, what is this? From self centered to God centered. Okay, what is this? If an alcoholic failed to perfect and enlarge his spiritual life, it says page 15. Here it is. Enlarge, make or become bigger or more extensive. Perfect, having all the required. Perfect is not the same as perfect. We have to continue growing. We have to continue learning. We have to continue trying to get closer to God. That's what that means. I don't want to stop doing that. Enlarge his spiritual life. Spiritual is of the soul. We got to feed our soul. The work and self-sacrifice. Mental work is mental or physical effort. Self-sacrifice is denying ourselves for others. He couldn't live. We can't live. There's certain problems and low spots, okay? Depression. The low spots is depression. With us, it is just like that. My wife and I abandoned ourselves with enthusiasm to the idea of helping other alcoholics to a solution of their problems. It was fortunate, for my old business associate remained skeptical for a year and a half, during which I found little work. I was not too well at the time. I was plagued by waves of self-pity and resentment. This sometimes nearly drove me back to drink, but I soon found that when all other measures failed, work with another alcoholic would save the day. Many times I've gone to my old hospital in despair. Okay, stop for a minute. My wife and I, they were excited about helping other alcoholics. They wanted to do it. It wasn't a chore, okay? It was easy to think it's easy to help someone else with their problems if you've already been through it and got through it and you know how to help them. It does help you helps get you out of your own problems, but you can't really, you know, because we could obsess on them a lot, but you can't stay there because eventually you're going to have to face, face their problems. I'm not going to avoid it. And he's saying it's fortunate his business associates were doubtful about him, whether he was going to stay sober or not. And he couldn't really work much, so he needed something to do to stay busy, okay? He wasn't well, he at the time. He was tortured, he was sick, he was physically ill, he was mentally ill, he was spiritually sick. You get waves of self-pity, mad and sad. It'll drive you nuts and you want to escape and escape and drink again. But when that happens, all he had to do is go to the hospital. He'd find someone to help and someone else to think about besides his own self. You know, you could look at what's going on with other people, and suddenly we know we got it good because we really don't have it as bad as it could be. So then many times I gone to my old hospital in despair. Despair is without hope. On talking to a man there, I would be amazingly lifted up and set on my feet. He would surprisingly start feeling positive emotions, okay? Be uplifted. It's a design for living that works in rough going. It's good, but it's not going to keep you. You can't live at the hospital. You can't always run to the hospital. You can't always get to a meeting. You can't always, you know. So we're not going to make AA. You can make AA your God temporarily, but you can't replace God with AA for that for very long. It's dangerous. I did it. I know it. Trust me. We commence to make many fast friends, and fellowship has grown up among us, of which it is a wonderful thing to feel a part. The joy of living we really have, even under pressure and difficulty. Okay, so we made fast friends or loyal friends. Some are and some aren't. Everybody in AA is not perfect. The simple pleasures of life, were something that we can actually appreciate now, even though we have other problems going on. I've seen hundreds of families set their feet in the path that really goes somewhere. I've seen people crawl out of the gutter and come up off the street and help thousands and thousands of people. You know, you got them, they're all over the place now. Back then, in 1996, there wasn't that many. It was a little rough. Whew. I've seen the most impossible domestic situations righted, feuds and bitterness of all sorts wiped out, grudges and resentments. I have seen men come out of asylums and resume a vital place in the lives of their families and communities. A mentally ill, deranged person be sitting in AA. You might think this person ain't never gonna, this person's never gonna be okay. But they surprise you. Just never know. You really can't judge because the brain does regenerate. There is scarcely any form of trouble and misery which has not been overcome among us. There's a lot of experience there for the asking. Let's see. Oh, business and professional men have regained their standing. They got their good reputation back. In one western city and its environs, which are areas or districts, there are 1,000 of us in our families, and I guess they thought that was a lot. We meet frequently so that newcomers may find the fellowship they seek. There's evidence that the program works. At these informal gatherings, one may often see from 50 to 200 persons for growing in numbers and power. So there's really no excuse. There's plenty of people to choose from, to find friends at lots of different meetings, that you can go to find people that are genuine, honest, loyal, and true. And then, you know, they used to say if you let the people run you out, the alcohol will run you back. But, my peace is worth too much. An alcoholic in his cups is an unlovely creature. An alcoholic living for on basic instincts like an animal is ugly. Any human being that's stuck in survival mode is an unlovely creature. We have a lot of people that's happening to right now who have a serious mental health crisis in our country, and I don't know how we're ever gonna, you can't force anyone to do better. I didn't even know I didn't even know I wanted to be sober. I didn't really want to. I kind of forced myself to until the want to kicked in. Our struggles with them are variously strenuous, comic, and tragic. Uh, Strenuous, exhausting, funny, and tragic is causing or characterized by extreme distress or sorrow. One poor chap committed unaliving in my home. He could not or would not see our way of life. There is, however, a vast amount of fun about it all. I suppose some would be shocked at our seeming worldliness and levity. There is very great amount of size, intensity, degree of fun. Okay, there's a lot of fun. You have a lot of fun in AA. You really can. They have all kinds of things you could do. They've got, bowling leagues and pool leagues. And if you don't want to do that, they're always going out to eat somewhere, going on float trips, camping. They're always having fun. Okay. Some would be shocked at our seemingly worldliness and levity. Worldliness is uh, in 1939 was generally referred to a preoccupation with earthly pleasures, material possessions, and worldly ambition, often seen as a distraction from spiritual or religious values. So, in lightness, it seems to people that when you're looking at AA for the first time or in the beginning or from the outside, or if you're a normal person and you're not a drinker, and these people are just so crazy about having fun and enjoying their life, because we lived in hell for so long. That's why. We have to have some fun. Ah, but just underneath it, there is deadly earnestness, which means quality of being serious, sincere, and determined, often without humor. Faith has to work 24 hours a day in and through us or we perish. Hold on to God. Most of us feel we need look no further for utopia, which is heaven. We have it with us right here and now. Each day, my friend's simple talk in our kitchen multiplies itself into a widening circle of peace on earth and goodwill to men. That is Luke 2:14. Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill to men. Okay, I'm stopping there. I know it's not very much, but we'll start at chapter 2 solution.